Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're doing a comparison between two of the craziest super SUVs, the Mercedes GLE 63S and the Audi RS Q8. Before we get into this video though, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to TJ Chapman Auto for giving me some time with this RS Q8. This is currently the only RS Q8 for sale in the entire state of Utah, so if you're looking for one, they happen to have one. Link to their website in the description down below. If you have any questions, need any help, just ask for Jensen. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Powering the RS Q8 is a twin-turbo 4-liter V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs are 591 horsepower and then 590 pound-feet of torque. Now, powering the GLE is a twin-turbo 4-liter V8 that goes through a 9-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs with this are 603 horsepower and then 627 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we go over the front ends, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the Audi, first off, this RS Q8 being all blacked out just looks absolutely sinister. You guys can see we've got really cool lines there on the hood, and then we've got Audi's fancy headlights here with the daytime running lights. And then notice, obviously, everything's blacked out. You've got the subtle RS Q8 badge there with the blacked out Audi logo as well. But yeah, it definitely has like a sporty appearance. And then popping over to the GLE, I feel like this is more rounded off, and it's not as like crazy aggressive with the design, but you do have some points of aggression, I guess is what we'll call them. Look at the body lines here on the hood, and then you guys can see down below with the headlights. Again, this is where things kind of like soften up a little bit, is with the headlights, and then pretty aggressive with the grille design, and then you can see the trim here at the bottom. But either way, let me know which front end you like more. So at the front of the RS Q8, our tire wheel setup is 295/35/23, and then at the front of the Benz, it is 285/40/22. Now in the back of the RS Q8, it's 295/35/23, but in the back of the Benz, things actually change a little bit. It's now 325/35/22, so a slightly staggered setup on the Benz, whereas the RS Q8's even on all four corners. Now to quickly go over the wheel design with both of them, the RS Q8 you guys can see with the silver there, and then notice how it's kind of like metallic gray in the center, and then you've got that giant red brake caliper. And by the way, the rotors on this thing are absolutely enormous. And then popping over the Benz, again, you can see it goes for more of like the luxury car design with the wheel. This one actually happens to have carbon ceramic brakes, which are pretty insane. Now they both have really nice body painted fender flares here, and then you guys can see body painted mirrors with both of them. Got our V8 bi-turbo badge here, whereas they keep things clean with the RS Q8. There's no badges or anything on the side. And then again, if you look at the sides, notice with the Benz, it's kind of more rounded off, whereas the RS Q8, it's kind of more straight edge with the lines. And then here's your full side view with the RS Q8. And then here's your full side view with the GLE. Now here are the key fobs for both the vehicles. It's kind of funny how they've both gone for like the blacked out key fob design. But anyways, functionality on them is literally identical. Now popping into the back of the GLE, you guys can see it's very spacious behind the second row. And this is why this segment of SUV is so popular in today's world. Got good space underneath as well. And then that's just to raise or lower the rear suspension. And then when you're all done, you can just press that button right there and then it'll close it. Now with the RS Q8, the depth is about the same as the GLE, but this has more of a coupe design, which you actually can get a coupe GLE. But anyways, because this has more of a coupe design, the vertical space is a little bit more limited, but still have cool cargo cover action, and then still have the suspension racing and lowering. You'll notice a lot of similarities between these, and also same thing at the top here with the little button where you press. Now capping things off with the rear design, this is where you guys will see the difference between the coupe styling and the SUV styling. Now with the RS Q8, that's the only styling that it has, whereas with the GLE, you can get this SUV like this one, or you can get a coupe style if you like the coupe style a little bit more. But again, notice how everything's a little bit more rounded off with the GLE, and then look how aggressive the exhaust tips are on the diffuser and everything. And then with the Audi, everything's super aggressive as well. And then I love the exhaust tip covers on the Audi. I think they're pretty sweet. Now quickly here in the back of the GLE, you guys can see legroom's great. Got a storage pocket, got some vent action. And then look at this door panel. Again, very luxurious looking. We do have heated seats here in the rear. And then we have our own climate zone as well. And then you guys can see the USBs here at the bottom. And of course, we got a cup holder armrest, the most important thing. But look at the seat design with the leather, and then you got like the Alcantara, and then more leather trim here in the center. And then for those of you wondering, headroom's good. Now in the back of the Audi, pretty much the same with the space. Still got that. Still got some vent action. We've got our own climate zone here. It's just on this little screen there at the bottom is where it'd pop up. And then you got some USB action. And then look at the door panel. Definitely more sporty with the theme. I mean, look at the Alcantara, the leather, the carbon fiber. Really cool design overall. And then headroom back here. I feel like the GLE has a little bit more. And then I guess I'll have to move to show you guys the seats here. You guys can see it says RS right there. And then look how it's like got the cool design down the center. I think these seats are really cool looking. Now starting off at the front of the Mercedes, let's quickly take a look at the door panel here. Look at how luxurious that looks with all of the leather trim all over. And then you got the seat adjustments here on the door panel, memory seats, heated, cooled seats, you know, the normal luxury stuff, and blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. Nice solid sound. Now this has the AMG style steering wheel, so you've got like the golf ball texture here on the side with the leather, which is really cool. Really nice paddle shifters. Got a bunch of controls here, so notice for like the infotainment system. Got your cool little drive mode select here with the GLE as well. And then these are little functions you can change there. Just press little screen, which is pretty cool. And then you can see here I've got the digital gauge cluster, which it's super customizable. I mean, there's so many different things that you can like go through to change like the viewpoint with this, which I think is pretty sweet. And then if we pop it into reverse, we've got a 360 camera system with this. Infotainment system response time with this is fantastic. And again, there's so many different ways to control it. I've got a keypad, you've got the steering wheel, so really user-friendly on that side. And then with drive modes, the main stuff is there's like 3 different sport modes basically. So I think that's kind of interesting. And then look at the rest of the design here, like on the dash and everything is really quite beautiful. And then you got stuff like a wireless phone charging pad. That's your analog thing for the infotainment system. And then your drive mode select. This is for the suspension to raise and lower it. I do find the center console quite interesting. And then look at all the trim here all around. I think that's pretty cool looking. And then up top we do have a nice headliner here, as you can see, and then a full panoramic sunroof as well. And then here's a quick look at the front seats. They're basically the same as the rear seats in terms of the overall like material use. Now in the RS Q8, and first off, look at the trim here on the door panel with the leather and everything, and you guys can see the carbon fiber as well, just like the back end. Frameless windows, which is kind of interesting. Blind spot with the mirrors also. Nice solid sound. I love the Alcantara around the steering wheel. That's definitely different. Again, this feels sportier, all things considered. And then really nice paddle shifters here on the back. I will say the Benz don't have like plastic like these ones do, so that's a little bit of a downside in the Audi. And then here's the full digital gauge cluster. I'd say this is just as cool as the Benz because you can go through a bunch of different views just like with the Mercedes. So, you know, similar, again, different theme, but, you know, similar functionality, if that makes sense. And then this one also has a 360 camera system as well. We also have a bunch of, well, actually, let's take that off. We have a bunch of different drive modes that we can go through. I guess we have to take off a bunch of things on the screen. There we go. We have a bunch of different drive modes that we can go through with this. This one actually has more of the off-road style modes, which is interesting. You think that Mercedes would have more because, you know, that's technically it's not a G-Wagon G-Class, but it's a G-Class. Anyways, response time's great. You got the bottom screen, which has your heated and cooled seats and some of the other climate stuff like the defrosters and everything. And then you can see these are very bright here in the sunlight with the different controls. I do like the Alcantara here on the shifter though. That's pretty cool. And again, I feel like this design's a little bit more simplistic. The Mercedes is definitely a little bit busier inside. Now look at the center console here. A little bit more normal with the overall design. And then look at the seats here in the Audi. Again, sportier with the theme. And you can see that continues onto like the dash and everything. The Quattro logo, all that. And then we have a nice headliner here. And then you guys can see panoramic sunroof. Now when it comes to pricing, both of these vehicles as equipped, brand new, would be about $140 something. I actually don't have a window sticker for either of the vehicles because that's a pre-production car and then that one is a pre-owned car. So yeah, I don't have window stickers, but I just, you know, looking at the options and knowing the pricing schemes on these, that's roughly, they'd both be in the 140s roughly. So we are setting off in the RS Q8 first, and then we will drive the Benz second. And well, the Benz happens to be my demo car for the week, and so I'm kind of pretty familiar with how that one drives, but I still think it'd be cool to do it this way. Anyways, first off, although these seats are very aggressive looking, they're very comfortable. The leather's really soft, and I actually don't know how many miles this one has on it. So I was gonna say there's probably a little bit of like, you know, the seat's kind of worn in a little bit. That's what happens with leather seats, so they get softer over time, which I really like. But regardless, seats are comfortable. I do like the Alcantara steering wheel, and this is definitely again worn really well. Usually I expect Alcantara to kind of, you know, wear out pretty fast, but it looks like this one it's done pretty well. So whatever Alcantara Audi's using, it seems to be better than what some other manufacturers use, that is for sure. But this road's really good for showing suspension and everything with cars, because it's quite bumpy indeed. Now both these cars have adjustable suspension, and so that should help out, right? Because the ride height can adjust up and down, so then that will allow it to help out with the damping. And you know, both of them actually have quite a bit of luxury features. So if I actually, yeah, both of them over the train tracks are not necessarily the most comfortable. If I go to the seats tab, you've got all of your different adjustments. You got massage function as well. It's pretty cool, the stuff that you have with this. And the Mercedes has massage and everything just like this. Oh, I guess we're in the dynamic mode. Let's go into auto. That'll help out with smoothing things out a little bit, actually. Okay, so this is in the auto mode. Yeah, it's got so much torque. I mean, it is ridiculous the amount of torque this has. We'll pop into dynamic. Okay, we're in Mexico here for a second. Man, this thing sounds so good. Gotta love V8s. Gotta love V8s. And the handling on this is really good. It'll be interesting to see the handling difference with both of them. I guess now we're exiting Mexico, whatever you want to say. But, you know, I've driven both of these cars quite extensively, so starting things up here with the RS Q8 side of things before we pop into the GLE. I think this thing looks really cool, definitely on the sportier side with the aesthetics, with the interior. It's still a very comfortable luxury interior. And then the driving, I will say, is also on the sportier side for the most part. I will say the Audi has done quite a bit to make this like really comfortable and daily drivable, so I think that's pretty impressive. But you can tell that that's the focus with this car is sportiness. Again, it is an RS car at the end of the day, and I feel like that's just kind of like what Audi's focusing on as a brand in general, is they're focusing more on the sport side, similar to what, you know, BMW does. Okay, so setting off in the GLE, and so let's kind of see how this compares to that RS Q8 when it comes to driving. I just realized the radio was on with the volume there. But the first thing that I'm noticing is it's really smooth. Now, is it smooth in the RS Q8? I think slightly, but I think the biggest part of that is because of the tire and wheel setup. This has slightly more sidewall, slightly smaller wheels, whereas the RS Q8, right? 23s versus 22s. Also, I just realized that tire is a little bit down pressure. Should probably fill that up. Good thing I got an air compressor with me. Yeah, pretty dang comfortable overall. Yeah, let's see, going over all this. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's any, I mean, maybe slightly, but it's pretty dang close when it comes to suspension comfort here with this. Now, aside from that seat comfort, I think these seats are a little bit more comfortable than the RS Q8, but again, really close. That's what I'm noticing with these vehicles, is everything's just super, super close between them. So this is in like our normal mode. Get kind of like a little acceleration here. A little trip to Mexico here. I don't know if it's any quicker, but it's still fun. There's definitely a sound difference. Oh, well, let's actually pop it back into sport and see how the handling is. Again, handling's super similar. So, to be honest, I thought there was gonna be more differences. I will say there are some things in the Mercedes that I do like a little bit more. Like when you close the hood, it's a more solid sound than with the Audi. So it seems like this has like a little bit more of a solid feel to it overall. But aside from that, I think honestly it's going to come down to personal preference. I think some of you are going to like the Audi setup more with the looks on the outside and the interior, and you know, the overall theme. Again, do you want like a sporty theme, or do you want more of like a luxury? And this kind of has like luxury off-roader theme, right? That's why they have the grab handles here, the off-roader side. Yeah, it's a lot closer than I expected. They're honestly both great. If you're wondering my personal like pick out of them, man, I honestly, that's so tough. I lean slightly towards the Mercedes, but yeah, it's very slight, and I think that's just like, I think my personal preference, because I drive so much, is more towards the luxury side. So regardless, let me know which one you choose, RS Q8, or if you choose the GLE. I don't think you can go wrong. I know it's a cop-out, but I don't think you can go wrong.